안녕하세요. 비트플랜비입니다. 오늘은 마이클세일러의 영상을 준비했습니다.
If you're a betting man, Bitcoin hits a million when?
Yeah, it's difficult to give you a short-term forecast. So I'm not going to give you an exact date. I will just tell you I think it's 13 million in the year 2045. I think it'll grow between 30 and 60% a year for the next 5 to 10 years. And then I think it's growing 60% a year right now. I think it will decelerate to be growing 20% a year 21 years out. And so it could surge up, quite quickly over the next 4 years, and you would get there in 4 to 8 years. But, it's very volatile. It takes a random path, and we can't be quite sure. So I think I would take a more open-minded view. I would just assume that it's going to keep grinding up. It'll do the serpentine thing. And the volatility is good because if it was straight line growing and everybody saw that it was very predictable, then a bunch of people richer than you that you don't like would just buy it all and you wouldn't be able to get any. The volatility is a gift to the faithful.
여기서 잠깐 마이클 세일러가 변동성이 선물이라고 말한 이유와 변동성을 이용해서 수익을 볼 수 있는 방법에 대해 간단하게 설명해 드리겠습니다. 그건 바로 비트코인 선물 투자 방법인데요. 많은 분들이 혼자서 잘 모르고 매매하시다가 큰 손실을 보시는 투자 방법입니다. 그래서 준비했습니다. 구독자분들을 위해 비트플랜비 베테랑 트레이더와 프로그램 개발자가 힘을 합쳐 보조지표를 개발하였습니다. 초보자부터 경력자까지 큰 도움을 받을 수 있는 지표라고 자부합니다. 보조지표 이름은 알파빗으로 써 자동으로 구동되며 유료로 출시될 예정입니다. 구독자분들께 보답으로 선착순 50명만 무료로 배포해 드릴 예정입니다. 또한 성의 있는 사용 후기까지 적어주시는 5분께 알파빗 지표 평생 이용권을 드리려고 합니다. 신청 방법은 하단 더보기란과 고정 댓글 확인해주세요. 많은 참여 부탁드립니다.
Is there a moment the light bulb just went, this is where I'm going to take my financial life?
I think in March of 2020, during the COVID panic and the lockdowns, the economy came to a grinding halt. Everybody went home. We had the 15 days to stop the spread. There was a lot of anxiety in the economy. And then we saw interest rates get taken to zero. And it's almost like the economy just stopped. If you actually were in Wall Street or you owned a bunch of financial assets, you're probably going to be okay. But if you're on Main Street and you're trying to actually do things like run a restaurant or a yoga salon, you were going to have a bad year. And so at that point I said, well, I have all this cash and it's worthless, like zero interest rates. And the central banker said, we're not even thinking about raising interest rates for 4 years. So you have a non-performing asset. And then I looked at the government basically printing money. I thought if we shut down the economy for 2 years, that's going to cost a lot of money. And that's going to get printed. And so I saw hyperinflation, coming at the end of those lockdowns. And I noticed my money was a melting ice cube. And I thought, well, I need to do something with the money before it becomes worth 40% less. And that's the point where I said to a friend of mine, so tell me about that Bitcoin thing again.
Do you think people buy more out of FOMO? Or do you think humans are motivated, especially with Bitcoin, by logic, where they go?
We say that Bitcoin is on a need-to-know basis. I think that people that discover Bitcoin, they discover it because they need to know about it. If you're living in hyperinflation in Argentina, then you have a need to know. So the Argentinians were some of the early Bitcoin adopters and big Bitcoin advocates. If you live in Nigeria and the currency collapses, or Lebanon and the bank freezes your assets, you're on a need to know. So normally it's people in struggling economies, they get it. And then a company that's well run, that's very successful, doesn't have a need to know. They come a bit later.
When was the first light in the brain where you go, I feel like the number one reason people don't get into crypto or anything is they think they're too late. But what you're saying is really you only had the aha moment 4 years ago.
I think when I was thinking about it, it was 4,000 or 5,000 a coin for Bitcoin. And when we started buying it in size, it was in the mid 9,000s and 10,000, 11,000, and it's 10x since then. But to be clear, the brilliant idea of Bitcoin is digital property, and it's the most simple idea imaginable. Do you want to buy 1/21 millionth of all the money in the world for all of eternity? Like the product's going to be the same in 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years?
But what's your counter argument to people say, yeah, Bitcoin's good, but it's too speculative. It moves in 1 year from 15,000 to 100,000. What's your counter?
I think the important thing is to understand it not as a digital currency, but as digital capital. Money decomposes into currency, which is the medium of exchange, like the peso, the ruble, or the dollar, or capital, which is a store of value, like a Monet painting, like a really nice penthouse in Manhattan. And so if you think of it as currency, you get really confused because you want to buy coffee with it. But the truth is, no currencies are good stores of value. You wouldn't want to hold $1 million of dollars or pesos or marks or francs or yen or anything for 100 years. So if you ask the question, at some point in your life, you have a successful business, you're wealthy, you have succeeded in life, you've had a family, you've got respect, and it's inevitable in human condition that as you progress through your life cycle, you become more conservative, more comfortable in your ways, and more comfortable in your assumptions. As I said, Bitcoin's on a need-to-know basis. You can't expect someone at the end of their career who's been successful with a different set of techniques and technologies and systems of thought. So they're thinking about their frame of reference. He or Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, they have their frame of reference, but they're not 20-something years old in Venezuela or Argentina watching their money melt down a toilet, right? So I think that the people that embrace crypto and embrace Bitcoin, they're the new generation.
So when's, in your mind,
It's a simple formula if you want to make 10x your money or even 100x your money. And this is the formula. Find something in the world everybody needs, nobody can stop. And if you find that, but you go and you talk to a bunch of people with more money than you, and they're older than you, and they're more successful than you, and they all say, I don't get it. Okay, at that point, the cowardly response, the loser response is, well, a lot of people told me to give up on it because they don't get it, so I won't get it. And the right response is, I'm going to study it and decide if they're wrong, and I'm going to make a decision for myself. If I bought Bitcoin when Wall Street hated it, then I'm getting rich.